Streamer Destiny may be legally trapped as we look at this new scandal, and we're turning to what may be criminal charges. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney. This legal mindset we teach you to be your own judge. Of course, it's a fast facts version, giving you the quick and dirty and the latest of legal news. If you like this version, if you like the fast facts, make sure you like the video and leave a comment on the video below. So as always, we have a nice PowerPoint for you here today to kind of walk you through this situation with Destiny. Now, once again, I'm going to give a content warning because this is once again a very serious topic. Unfortunately, I've been covering some very serious topics lately that involve deep materials and deep subjects that can be sensitive to some people. So if you are very sensitive to this thing and anything involving explicit materials involving minors, this might not be the topic for you. I'm going to refer to it as CSAM. I know people like to use the cute cheese pizza stuff, and it's, good enough for an emoji or something else somewhere, but I'm going to use CSAM because that's the professional designation, and it just talks about it in a more professional way. So that's what I try to go for on my channel. Please be respectful in both the live chat and in the comments below, and I would deeply appreciate that, as this has affected many people, and this is something that really is truly hurtful to a large percentage of the world population. So let's go into the introduction. First of all, I previously covered his ongoing civil lawsuit, so you can check out my previous video for that information. However, this does relate and not relate to his ongoing lawsuit with Pixie. Of course, this will be information that Pixie's lawyers will be very interested in getting at, and there'll be all sorts of twists and turns. But what I'm going to really focus on today is the latest controversy and the legal issues presented. So I'm not focusing on the inter-streaming drama. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to bring up, St. Piker in this one, right? It really doesn't have anything to do with him or what Ethan Klein thinks or anybody else. It really has to do with Destiny and the legal hot water that he's put himself into. So that's our focus today. And the last thing I'm going to say, and I've said this before, is like with all of my videos, I have no personal bias or anything for or against Destiny. And frankly, I don't care how this turns out. So it really isn't something that I'm for or against. And what I want to say is, if you're a fan of Destiny, if you're a Destiny fan who's tuning in to watch this, right, please watch this with an open mind, because this both presents the challenges, the things he stepped in, as well as, hey, what can he do moving forward? Because at this point, you're at where you're at. So what do you do? So listen to it with an open mind, whether you're for or against Destiny, whatever side you're on. Just try to focus on the law and what is objective in here, because all of this is really objective information. So let's get into explaining the controversy. Now, you guys can go over watch this 4-minute video. I reported Destiny to the police by Willie Mack. If you want to see the whole video, I'll have it on my live version. You can watch the whole thing there. But as a quick summary, on this expose video, the streamer Willie Mack contacted Destiny when Rose seemingly was confirmed as underage. She was confirmed on a third party as being underage at the time, and when explicit material is being shared with her. So this girl is underage and, receiving explicit material. That's not something that's good. So they were, talking, and as part of that voluntary conversation, once again, Destiny chose, this is a big deal, he voluntarily engaged with Willie. There was no legal obligation. This was not a deposition. This was not something that was required by any court of law. This is something he did because he just wanted to talk. He just wanted to get it out there. And this is a very common problem for streamers, because they often talk about stuff and get themselves in a hot water. And that's exactly what happened here today. Destiny voluntarily commented, likely without consulting his lawyer. I'm almost certain that he did not talk to his lawyer before he talked to Willie Mack. And he shared a video where Rose, apparently, according to all the data, appeared to be underage at the time. Therefore, he shared an adult video, of course, a piece of it. He didn't share the actual video file itself, but he had the file name and he had a top of the video where she was underage, and stated, hey, yeah, I've got this. I've still got this information. I've got this on my computer, right, where this girl is apparently a minor. Therefore, this would be what would appear to be CSAM. I've got that on my computer. And Destiny's defense to that, his kind of pushback when he was questioned by Willie, was, oh, I have a legal duty. I have a legal obligation to preserve evidence. So, of course, Willie turned around and then reported Destiny to the police, in addition to making a video, 4-minute video, which I'll put in the description below. So What happened afterwards? Well, of course, Destiny goes and fights back. He goes and comments back saying almost everything at DM is wrong. Willie Mack is running cover. He goes in on Ethan Klein. He goes in on Hassan. He says he has no CSAM on his computer. I've only complied with my legal obligations for my court cases. The 60 gigabyte screenshot was read to a claim that Rose made, someone whose name and birthday have yet to be reliably confirmed. Well, I think that's where the problem is. It seems like that indeed has been confirmed, according to sources out there. And if those sources are correct, if those sources have indeed pulled up the right information, then it appears that if that is confirmed, that would indeed be CSAM. So he may be asserting that it's not based on a mistake of fact, which we'll talk about today. However, that can entirely change things legally. So let's get into how this splices legally. So preservation of evidence. So channel fans and you guys out there know the term. You're big fans of my channel. You know the term. Spoilation. You guys know about that. I've taught you that because it comes up time and time again with people deleting evidence. I talked about that in the Ethan Klein case with the Reddit and Discord mods trying to delete stuff, right, or hide stuff, or Denims or anybody else trying to hide stuff. That would be spoliation. If they're trying to delete evidence, hide evidence, that is a problem, because once a lawsuit starts, whether it's civil or criminal, does not matter. You have a duty to preserve evidence, and that applies to all evidence, physical, digital, anything relevant to the case. That's very broad, right? Anything relevant broadly, you have to preserve. So any attempt to hide or punish or destroy that evidence, anything that's relevant, and you try to hide it or destroy it, you can be punished by the court, including criminally, for trying to hide or destroy evidence. So Destiny, when he said he has a legal duty, and listen up, Destiny fans, Destiny is right about that. But however, he's sort of right about that. And he's forgetting about all those other duties that are out there and all those other responsibilities. He's forgetting about privilege. And this is where I think he did not talk to his lawyer, because if his lawyer knew he was going to have this conversation, he would have certainly said no, because it made his job a living hell. Let's talk about that. So let's talk about candor to the tribunal. A lot of people know about attorney-client privilege. If you watch Breaking Bad, with Saul Goodman, put $1 in my pocket, engage confidentiality. And attorney confidentiality is strong. It's very strong, but it's not unbreakable. There is supposed to be, theoretically, a balance. Now, of course, I will say this too. Different lawyers are different and take different ethical stances on what is confidential and what they need to disclose to the court. But you actually need to balance what's called candor to the tribunal, which means confidentiality is on one side and candor to the tribunal, the court, on the other side. You have to be honest with the court. As a lawyer, you can't lie to the court. If you know you are lying, you cannot do that. So there is a duty to report facts, such as criminal behavior, criminal conduct, or fraudulent conduct, perjury, fraud to the court. All of these things you have to report. So if the lawyer knows, you have to report it. And that's the key there, right? That's the key. The lawyer does not have to report mere suspicion. So if you only suspect something, you don't have to report that. But if you actually know it, if you know it's true, you're like, I know this as a fact, you do have to report that. So the problem is, are you seeing the problem here? This moved from something his lawyer may have suspected because we do or don't know this person's age to, oh yeah, this person was factually underage. Therefore, this is factually CSAM. That completely changes the dynamic from something the lawyer might not have to report because he doesn't know one way or another to something he'd say, well, now we've got to talk about this. Now we've got to disclose this to the court. It's a mandatory disclosure. It's no longer an elective disclosure. That's a problem. That's a big problem for the lawyer. The other problem is we've got privilege. So any information that had been protected by attorney-client privilege, that super strong privilege, you can throw lawyers in jail and they don't have to break attorney-client privilege. That duty is absolutely waived when you speak to a third party, when you disclose to a third party. Now, There's a difference between inadvertent, accidental, and intentional disclosure. If you accidentally leak something, if it was something that, oh my God, I faxed somebody something, I should have faxed them that. Okay, you might get away. Who uses a fax anyways? Well, the Japanese do. It's a Japanese thing, guys. Trust me, I'm in Asia. But you accidentally send something over an accidental email, whatever else, that may still apply, right? There's no guarantee. You might have waived that privilege, right? It's possible you still waive it, but there's an argument that the attorney-client privilege is preserved. However, if you leak information intentionally, privilege is lost forever. So here's the issue. He spoke to Willie Mack voluntarily. There was no obligation. There was no court order. There was no gun to his head. There's no duress. There was no money. There's no nothing else. There's nothing going on here, right? There wasn't any sort of situation where this could be argued as an inadvertent disclosure. This was an intentional disclosure, fully intentional. There's no way this was not voluntary. So that's the problem. All the privilege on this is waived now. So all of, for example, talking about Pixie in that lawsuit, they can come after that because there's no privilege on that anymore. That's just wide open. So let's talk a little bit more about applying this to the law. Let's talk about mistake of fact. So Destiny argues that he lacked the mens rea, right? He lacked the intent to commit the crime because he had an honest and reasonable misunderstanding of a factual circumstance at the time of the act. That's the defense of mistake of act. This is a defense that comes up particularly to specific intent crimes. So the best example was, let's say you had a very expensive jacket. Let's say it's a designer jacket, and you picked up a jacket you're in a place that's cold, so you have to put when you come in the winter, you put your jackets up front and you take somebody else's jacket. Maybe it's their Canada Goose jacket, whatever it is. I don't know what's trending nowadays, but you take their expensive jacket and it's not yours. Well, that's a true mistake of fact. You did not know it was identical. It was a genuine, honest mistake. It's a reasonable mistake, a reasonable, regular person can make. You're not going to go to jail for that, typically, right? However, that's only for certain types of crimes. So there are certain types of crimes called strict liability. So most, but not all, criminal charges related to CSAM are strict liability. And what that means is, with strict liability means your state of mind does not matter. So your specific intent does not matter. Now, that's not all charges. Some of them, it does related to CSAM, some of it doesn't. There's other lawyers, shout out to some of my friends out there in LawTube that have gone over the long list of potential crimes. There are some that don't require it and some that do, right? It's a mix. And it's really up to prosecutors what they're thinking about, what they go for. That's not in the control of any streamer. It's not in control of Ethan Klein or Hassan or anybody else. It's in the control of the prosecutors to decide, hey, how are we going to go after Destiny? If we go after Destiny, that's up to them. And mistake of fact and mistake of law defenses typically do not work for strict liability crimes. They typically are not a defense. However, there are exceptions. Of course, there's a very complex and specific area of law. There's lawyers that dedicate their entire career just to this. I am not one of them, but I will give you an overview of some of the defenses that Destiny might bring up. So, of course, there's two main ones he might bring up. The first one is, of course, not having intent, and that would block anything with specific intent. So saying, hey, I genuinely believe this person was an adult, not a child, and argue I don't have the intent to possess or distribute. So a lot of the possession or distribute statutes might involve some specific intent to distribute. So, okay, I don't have the intent to distribute, so it's not going to be a distribution charge. The other one is negating the element regarding child. So there's usually language saying, okay, this is a child. So even if it doesn't require specific intent, it requires that person be a child. So if you say, hey, I honestly didn't believe they were a child, you would negate that element of the crime, even if it isn't specific intent. I know it sounds complicated, but it's just taking out that one little piece. Once again, not guaranteed, not foolproof, not something you can necessarily get away with. I'm just saying and presenting out there, as always, professionally, hey, here's the attack, here's the defense, right? And it doesn't look good for Destiny. This does not look good. So my conclusion is Destiny is certainly now under criminal scrutiny. Absolutely. There's been a report. So law enforcement is looking into it. Absolutely, without a doubt. And this is in addition to his civil case. So this has gone from something that is purely civil to something that is now potentially criminal. He gains nothing debating with people on the internet. And as much as I can tell him, and I'll probably make a short or something else like that, hey, look, this isn't useful. That's factual. I say it all the time. I put out the meme there on X, shut up, shut up, shut up. He probably won't, because that's his MO and that's what he's been doing for the longest time. But that really isn't going to help because it's not up to Willie Mack anymore. It's not up to Hassan or Ethan or anybody or myself even. Arguing with me doesn't really help. The only thing that helps is to fully disclose information to his lawyer, stop talking, definitely don't give any other interviews, and possibly engage a specialist lawyer. But even doing all that, there's no guarantee, and Destiny is certainly in for a very bumpy ride. I don't know what you guys think about this in the comments below, and I will catch you on the next one.